from the earliest moments I can remember, I felt like I had this really strong feeling that I was supposed to be doing something with my life that would make a positive impact for a lot of people.
Hey, welcome back to Case Studies. I'm here with my friend Dan Snow, who is my wife's favorite professor at BYU. And so I think this came about, I think you had me come in and speak.
Yeah, we've had you in.
Yeah. And so we came in, and I think the reason that I've wanted to do this one for a long time, so much of it has to do with my wife's experience with your program. And she went through this journey of just searching for kind of that, something. Like she was looking for something, and it was almost like something was calling to her.
Yeah.
And so she went and she audited English classes.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I love writing. I'll go, study English or writing. And then that didn't really work out. And then she's like, well, I love religion, and so I'll go do a religion course. And then that just wasn't the right fit. And then she had Chad Lewis, who was kind of one of our old neighbors and really good friend.
Great guy.
And Chad had gone, him and his wife, he had done the MPA.
Yeah, he did.
And his wife did the MBA.
Every time I see him, I tell him, I wish you had come to the MBA.
And I don't want to say think he wishes he would have.
No, that's a great program.
But it was 2 versus 3 years. Yeah. And there was just, and so Chelsea was talking to him, and he's like, you should do an MBA. And I think from like challenging your identity, it kind of rocked her a little bit, because she's like, we have our family office, and,
yep.
She's always been involved in, charity and stuff but she never really thought of herself as like, I'm a business person. Yep. You know what I mean? She'd been a partner with me. But we'd had pretty traditional roles, like our entire marriage. We started having kids right when she got done with school.
Yeah.
And we have 5 kids, and we're kind of through that. And so she ends up embracing this program, but then like these insane insecurities start coming out of like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough.
This is after she started the program?
Before. But she gets this idea. And so she goes and does like these Harvard courses,
mm-hmm.
And starts studying more of the hard skills.
Yep.
Which again is like calling on your insecurities. You know, you haven't like brushed off accounting or finance or statistics, and it's like, it's challenging. And then she gets into this program. She's taking, your courses, and she's getting into, and the transformation. I think when she sat down originally,
that's what we talked about.
They kind of talked to her and said, you're going to be different.
Yeah.
You're going to exit this program different, fundamentally different. And it makes me emotional just thinking about it, because, she's my like number one. And when you see someone get pushed to their limits, like she's coming home in tears, and, it literally like really challenging like all of your insecurities.
Yeah.
But to come out of that and like to see like almost this swagger and this confidence and this belief, just been so fun. And so like for me, I wanted to dive into your story and kind of how you got to that point, and even specifically, how you think about education is changing so rapidly.
Yeah. And
that intersection between business and so anyway, I'm really excited to chat with you.
This is a huge privilege. There's a lot to unpack there, actually, Casey. I think there's a lot to unpack. I'm going through a similar thing right now with my wife, who, after a little bit of a similar background, we don't have a family office, but she's been amazing with our kids. Our last kid left home this last summer, and she's in the culinary arts program at UVU.
How exciting is that?
It's amazing, and I'm watching something like this.
If you talk to Chelsea, that's where she would go next.
Well, I tell you what, it's a world-class program. It's amazing. But I'm watching this like transformation, at this stage of life. It's actually really cool. But she's so competitive. She's a lot like Chelsea, actually, because she's a baller, right? And she probably doesn't like always give herself credit for how much capability she has. Rebecca's very similar, and I watch, she comes home, she's like, man, if I got a 98 on this midterm, I'm like,
so fired
that's
up.
awesome. And she's like, no, like, I don't know why didn't get 100. And she's mad at herself. And she's like, maybe I can't get through. I'm like, whatever. Like, you're amazing. So there's something that's fun. That's a fun little parallel. What I'd say is, can I just say two things about what you said there?
Yeah, I love it.
One is, you said, when Chelsea was thinking about this, she said she's not a business person, and she was thinking about religion or English or these other things. And one of the great things about my job and about MBA education is it ends up being about leadership. You need to have a foundation. You have to understand how to calculate net present value. You have to understand Little's Law in operations. You have to understand the P's in marketing and all that stuff as a kind of a foundational thing, but it ends up being about leadership. And what I'd say is, my pushback on, and I think that I even maybe had a conversation with Chelsea about this when she was thinking of applying.
Yeah.
It's actually about leadership, and she is somebody who has huge innate capability in that. And to watch her, I watch you get emotional talking about it. It makes me emotional because that's like a huge privilege to be part of watching.
It's sacred ground.
It really is.
Like you're dealing with like people's development, and you get a chance to be a part of that journey and influence it. And like all of us have that, like with our kids or like somebody but to like have somebody at a stage in their life,
your partner.
Yeah, it's truly it's sacred ground, and like to be able to like have that life-changing impact. Chelsea's 40. And, you guys like get to lean in, and it's just been so special. And it's been everything that you told her that it would be when she got started.
That's awesome.
So it's fun. It's fun for me as, her cheerleader, to just see her going and like to encourage her to keep going,
I pinch myself sometimes that like I've woken up now at this stage of life, and I get to go into work every day and be involved in that kind of thing. Like that's a not very many people get to say, like, I really love my job. I really love the industry that I'm in. I really love, I feel like I'm having a positive impact on the world.
Yeah.
I feel really, really fortunate that I get to be part of stories like that. And that's, Chelsea's one of 70 people in her cohort. And I get to see that in my full-time program. I've been, at other schools where I get to see, I get to see that transformation, and it's a huge privilege. It's really fun.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the beginning and go back to your story. So you grew up where?
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Okay. So grew up in Colorado Springs, but came to BYU pre-mission or post-mission?
Pre-mission. Did a year at BYU before my mission. Yeah. So the backstory actually is nobody in my family is from Colorado. My mom and dad, my dad finished grad school. They moved to Colorado, just like kind of pioneers. My dad had grown up back east. My mom had grown up partly in Midwest and partly in Utah. And they struck out on their own, like planted roots there, raised us there. And so there's something in my blood that is both kind of wanting to go have adventures, like strike out on, into new territory. And also there, I don't, this would maybe be a little bit of a brag in some ways. Maybe it's not actually. My mom and dad met in a differential equations class at BYU. My dad was working on a PhD in nuclear physics.
You got a couple nerds.
They're amazing. Though they're amazing geeks. Like, and my mom was doing a master's in math.
You're just bringing like the horsepower. You got like those math genes.
You'd think so. It actually, I have a sister who studied actuarial science at BYU. She got more math than I did, but yeah. So education is like a really important thing in my family, and I see now, like if I look backward, that's a little thread.
Theme. Yeah.
That weaves through there. But so I grew up there. One of the things about you didn't ask, but I'll tell you, because I've been kind of reflecting on this lately. One of the important, so I had a really ideal childhood. Like some of the folks that I don't know if we're even supposed to talk about people that run, but and your other interviewees are like amazing people that have had like struggles that they had
Yeah.
With tough family situations and tough tough
And
stuff.
that just wasn't yours.
Yeah. So like I grew up in this kind of ideal environment. What's cool about this is my dad had that. And one of the things but I didn't actually know that until like I was like in my 20s. And talking to him, I could kind of pick this apart. He basically had a tough upbringing and had decided like, I'm going to give my kids the thing that I wish I had. And basically was this like firewall on the family tree where he's like, everything going forward for me is I'm going to raise my kids differently. I'm going to raise them the way I wanted to
I think
be
about
raised.
like this Stephen Covey concept of like being a change catalyst.
Yeah.
Like being somebody that like, it just changes with me.
Yeah.
And like the generational difference, or even like this, like sins of the fathers and the opposite of that. Like
it's really remarkable.
The blessing of him deciding, hey, it stops with me.
I'm going to do this. And this is
like
what
the
I'm going to do.
Generational change. It's kind of scary. Like when I like really think of like,
it's a ton of responsibility. Huh?
What both of those roads equate to. Yeah. And it's like, cause you're kind of dealt the hand that you're dealt. Like 100%. You just show up there, it's like you had,
and it feels normal to you as a kid, right? But some people get a really nice hand, and some people get. So I was dealt a really great hand, and I just two things about that upbringing. I'd say one is, and this is related to this conversation about education. From the earliest moments I can remember, I felt like I had this really strong feeling that I was supposed to be doing something with my life that would make a positive impact for a lot of people. And I grappled with like what that would be my whole, I was like, am I supposed to like invent some new thing? My dad's a physicist. Am I supposed to invent something? Am I supposed to, maybe I should go into politics? Like, there was all these things. And actually like, my decision not to go to medical school as an undergrad was kind of related to this. I was like, medicine's amazing. I'll be helping like one person at a time. And that didn't fit this thing that I kind of felt like I was born with. I was supposed to be helping a lot of people that'll end up playing out later. I feel like I have woken up in a situation where I get to do that.
Yeah.
The other thing about Colorado Springs that I don't know how many people would be aware of this, but I was a true religious minority there. Colorado Springs is the home to a bunch of really cool, good people that are like evangelical Christians. So there's a thing called Focus on the Family is there. There was a missionary organization called the Navigators, like amazing people who I probably share a lot of values with. But most of my friends whose parents were like associated with that thought I was going to hell because of my faith. I grew up as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So, and I still am. But so, I was the only kid in school that was like me and two kids that were Jewish in my, elementary school class. And it was always like, those guys are the other thing. And then, like high school, you'd have like, somebody would have like a prayer, a football game. And it was like, I remember one that was like, please bless the people that, don't understand Jesus. And like, look at me, that they aren't going to go to hell. And then, I wouldn't get invited. They had this thing called Young Life that was, I'm not making fun. Some of these folks are still my really close friends.
Yeah.
That was like the youth organization for this kind of evangelicals. Like they'd be like, hey, everybody come to Young Life tonight, except, Ronnie Feingold and Danny Snow. Not you guys.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's cool. It's true. But you know what? I think I didn't have a lot of hardship in a lot of ways, but I've been reflecting on this a lot lately. That's the thing that did for me is it made me really, it's made me much more comfortable being weird. Like if I'm in a situation where I'm part of the majority, I feel a little bit out of sorts. Like I like feeling weird. And it also help me to see people that are outsiders or who are kind of part of the other group. Like I'm most comfortable now.
More empathy.
Like being a bridge between two. Like I really like, I like when I talk to a friend who's from some other faith or from some other, country or from some other state or whatever. And I like being able to explain like, oh, this is you see this way. The folks that live here see this way, and this is kind of where you guys have common ground,
The
like
connection.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so I think that if I had some hardship, I didn't have much hardship, but if that might have been like growing up in the environment was like really formative for me.
Yeah. So you grew up there, and my brother, he was a cadet.
Oh, seriously?
Yep. So
we lived right by. I went to high school there,
and it's a vibrant part of that community. I mean, the Air Force Academy, like it fuels.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got you got sports, and you got just so many cadets from all over the country, and so that in of itself brings in a tremendous amount of talent.
I skipped half my senior year sneaking out of our high school. Was on the grounds of the Air Force Academy, and we'd go sneak onto the golf course there and play golf, or sneak into the bowling alley.
How cool is that? That's
awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The other thing that you said that's really interesting, because I've always found, your words were, I like being weird, unique, different.
Yeah. Peculiar.
Whatever it is, like my experience with faith was very, very similar. Like I grew up in Logan, and it's like if everybody was doing one thing, I wanted to do the other thing, which didn't play very well for me when I was younger, because, a lot of the kind of standards were things that I kind of rebelled against.
Yeah.
And it took me leaving that environment where everybody had a similar faith. And I remember going to Montana to go play baseball, and all of a sudden, uniquely, I was like one of two people that shared my faith.
Yeah.
And the contrast that I experienced was so different growing up, where before I would get attention or I would feel unique by going
naughty or whatever,
a different route. Also now I was like, whoa, this isn't what I want, and a lot of my friends, like they were partying so hard, like, and I was like, that's not what I want. You know what I mean?
But it took the juxtaposition.
I needed to see the extreme. I needed to see the contrast. Yeah. And, growing up, I didn't. And it was interesting. Like I was a way better disciple of Christ outside of like my home turf than I was when I was around a lot of people of a similar faith. And it's always struck me. I think about that experience.
Yeah.
Of just actually having to decide, actually having to go through this process of what do I believe? What standards do I want? What type of life do I want?
Totally. Clayton Christensen, he was a professor at Harvard Business School. He wrote The Innovator's Dilemma.
Oh yeah,
and he's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he when I was teaching there, and we had an offer to come to move from there to come to BYU. And I went and visited with him. His office is just right around the corner from mine. And
how long do you teach at Harvard?
6 years.
Okay.
And then another one, we went back as a visiting professor later on. But I asked him, I kind of was like, what would you do? And I was kind of asking for his advice. And he said something interesting to me. He said, basically exactly what you said. He said, I feel like I'm a much better Mormon outside of Utah than inside of Utah. Like, I feel like I'm a better me when I can like bridge, and I can also like contrast, I'm kind of an outpost in some ways. And he was more comfortable with that. And I really like that perspective.
Yeah. The second experience that I had with that's the most distinctive for me was Harvard. I went back and did their executive programs.
You did? That's cool.
And I actually had Clay as a professor.
Yeah.
And just very different. I mean, it's a completely international environment.
Yeah.
You have every race and every faith and every gender, and
which programs did you do?
I've done a bunch.
Okay.
I did OPM, and then I did PLD.
Nice.
But yeah, it was same type of thing. Like a lot of those same questions that are just never asked when you're like here. And I love Utah County. Like we're here forever. We love it. This is home.
Yeah.
But when you're away from it, you just, it's more, the contrast is more distinct.
I totally love it here. It's an amazing place. But one of the things, we moved to England a couple of years ago for a couple of years. And part of our motivation was that we wanted to get our kids into that kind of experience, and it worked really well. It was, they were almost the only members of their church
cool.
at school,
Okay.
and it was good. Anyway,
there's so much I want to unpack. So, Colorado Springs, come out to BYU.
Yeah.
Go on a mission.
Go on a mission to Rome, Italy. So this is like, other than pest control, this was probably an early formative interaction with failure and rejection. Rome is a tough place to be a missionary.
Yeah.
And but it was an amazing experience. Just 2 years of a lot of work and not a ton of apparent results. And but that was good because it taught me the value of hard work. It taught me to see success in small things. It taught me to like persist. No day I've had since my mission's been harder than
on the mission.
Yeah, like knocking doors in Naples, Italy, and nobody cares what you're saying for like a month, like that. That's not going to get worse than that.
No, the test, like that missions are just pure gold.
Yeah, you recognize afterward,
but they're not easy.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like I think of some of the hardest times I've ever had in my entire life were my mission. I don't know if
Where did you go?
I went to Oklahoma.
Oh, nice.
And it was Spanish speaking in Oklahoma. And the pressure cooker is so hot. And I don't know if it's just that age.
Yeah.
Where you're so impressionable or like first time from home but all of that combined, a new language definitely like exposes all insecurities.
Totally. I'd be fun to ask you questions about this sometime, like how that must have been formative for you going into your career, right?
Yeah. But for reasons that you would probably not consider. So, I remember coming home off my mission and the job that I would never do ever again, like the least appealing job would be to go knock doors.
Really?
Just
so it wasn't like you grew to love that.
No, it was the exact opposite. Grew to hate it. But it's like amazing how opportunity all of a sudden I get engaged to Chelsea and it's like, how am I going to make money? And this thing that was so unappealing all of a sudden becomes really appealing because it becomes a vehicle.
Yeah, that's
to go get something that I wanted. But
that's interesting. That's cool. Yeah. So I got home from that, and then I told you about trying to, thinking that I was going to go to law school, and then doing a switch. So I ended up in the
so talk to me about that, because I think this one is profound and it's probably relatable to everybody, where you had a plan.
Yeah.
And probably a pretty deliberate plan of like, this is the next step.
Yeah.
And then you get to the LSAT, and was it a feeling? Was it an impression? Was it like, what was the like, this isn't what I want to do, or this isn't what is it like, I just don't want to do this? Or is like, this isn't what I'm supposed to do?
So if I were explaining this to somebody who doesn't believe in God, what I would say is I had a really clear realization that, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, that most of the lawyers I knew were not super happy with their day-to-day in their jobs. And I had been telling myself, going to law school is really cool. It's really flexible because you could you could become an ambassador. You could, become a solicitor general. You could argue about civil rights and the Constitution. And in reality, you go to law school and you become a lawyer at a law firm.
Yeah.
And I had this kind of realization that that's not what I wanted to do. If I were talking to somebody who believes in a God that, is involved with decisions, what I'd say is, I think so this is my conceptualization of how God works in these things. I don't believe that God has this written out a plan that you're supposed to follow in your life. That's that sounds like predestination to me, which I don't love. But what I do think is there's a range of possibilities out there that any of us could do from this day, going forward.
Yeah.
And if you are willing to get God involved in helping you guide you on that, God's going to say, or may, if it's the right thing, may say, that path is going to bring you more happiness, or that path is going to bring you less happiness, or that might be a better fit with what you ought to be doing with your time during this life. And I feel like that was a moment of like grace where I felt like God was willing to reach out and say, hey, a little nudge. Lawyer's not for you. It might be for somebody else. But
That's so cool. Those little nudges are like really incredible mile marks in the journey.
Yeah.
Like I don't have too many.
Same.
But they're distinct. And like most of mine are like I'm going on a road, and then it like very rarely is God like intervene, just say,
Yeah.
But sometimes I've had that 2 or 3 times where I felt like I'm on a road and I'm moving, and then it kind of gets stopped. Yeah. And so it's fun to kind of hear that, because that's a completely different career. I think about like my wife's experience in your program.
Yeah.
And again, we'll get to it, but you going and teaching at Harvard and all this, like that's a completely different track.
I never even had any, I wouldn't have imagined that. If I had done what I thought I wanted to do, I'd be a somewhat unhappy, lawyer. Hopefully I'd be kind of successful, but I wouldn't be doing what was a good fit for me. Again, it could be a great fit for other people. Some of my best friends are lawyers.
Yeah.
And they're great at it, but I would be doing that. And the beautiful part of this is I ended up doing something I never would have imagined that I'd be doing.
Yeah. So you ended up going and doing an MBA.
Yeah. So I got in the MBA and studied finance and operations, and found out that I totally loved that. I geeked out on it. It was amazing. Was really fortunate. I'm a car guy.
Yeah.
And really wanted to go work at a car company. So ended up getting a job at Ford Motor Company. We were newlyweds, moved back to Michigan.
How exciting is that?
It was amazing. It was awesome. We drove back. One of the reasons I married amazingly well, like you did, one of the bonuses that came with my marriage is my wife had a Toyota Supra, which was an awesome
That's a big
car.
upgrade. Yeah.
It was awesome. So we drove that Supra back to Ford. First day of work, I parked it at a factory.
They weren't liking that.
I came back and there was a boot print dent in the door. Somebody had taken offense. I drove a Japanese car that I kicked it. Things have changed there since then.
Yeah.
But it was like, this is disloyal. So I ended up buying a Mustang and
that's not a bad trade.
It was good. It was I bought a Utah Highway Patrol Mustang.
Come on.
It was awesome. I wish I still had it. But so we go back there. Rebecca goes and takes a job at University of Michigan. She was a technical writer, and we had a great time. Worked there. I worked at the Michigan truck plant, which was the plant close to the Detroit airport where they were making all the expeditions and navigators. And in the late 90s, that was
a hot car, right?
It was hot. Yeah. Fuel prices were low.
I still remember like kind of growing up, and navigators were,
I was balling.
Yeah. And expedition, same thing. Yeah. Like both of those were kind of,
they were amazing.
My rich friends had them.
Exactly.
Like we didn't have them, but my wealthy friends all had them.
We had that factory, they'd roll off the line. Chelsea could tell you about this from operations class. Cycle time on those, or tack time they call it, was about one every minute was coming off the line. We were running 3 shifts at that plant.
A car a minute,
about 1,000 a day. So about 300,000 of those trucks were making a year. Economic profit on each one was like $15,000. So that factory was making $4.5 billion of profit for Ford Motor Company at the time. That was basically all their profit. So like the joke was they were selling Ford Escorts to lower the corporate average fuel economy for the right to sell expeditions and navigators. That's where all the profit was. So there was tons of pressure to keep the line going, tons of pressure to make sure that thing was running well. And it was super fun. It was really great. But while I was there, I started having this realization that there were aspects of the job that if I looked out 20 years, if that job went as well as it possibly could for me, and I became like CFO of Ford, it probably wouldn't be the thing that I wanted to have talked about at my funeral. And that started me. I had there was a formative thing that was happening then also, was that we had happened to move into a neighborhood in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where our bishop, like the leader of our congregation there, was a professor at the University of Michigan. His name is Dave Ulrich. He's kind of a guru of organizational behavior. Awesome guy. Lived in a super nice house, like on a golf course, and he talked about interesting stuff, and he was really cool. I was like, that guy, that looks like a cool job. Like, I wonder how you become a business school professor. And that kind of rekindled some of this like thinking from the old days. I'd grown up with a dad who was a professor. My mom's dad was a professor at BYU.
So you had like a ton of exposure to it.
I had some, yeah, but no like professors that were like in my immediate, but I had the exposure to education and kind of what that could be as like a thing. I was really, really fortunate that that's the case. And that kind of started the gears turning to the point that Rebecca and I started talking about, maybe is the next thing we should do is maybe, could I go get a PhD? And she was sort of like you and Chelsea, like flipped. She was like, yeah, dude, I support you. Like, let's go have an adventure. And so we went from being really well off.
Yeah. Like dual income,
great,
probably good cost of living too.
Great cost of living, leases on like cheap leases on cool cars, working in an area. I love cars. And then, and the other, and great healthcare. And we, after 4 or 5 years of marriage, it was during that time that we had finally been able to get pregnant.
Yeah.
It'd been kind of a journey, and, that's a whole other story, but that was pretty challenging. And right when we found out that we had successfully gotten pregnant was when I found out I had gotten accepted to PhD school. So we had this kind of wrestle, like, are we really going to like send it?
Yeah, this is a real sacrifice. Like, we're going for it. We're
going to do it and go back to being poor.
Yeah.
But Rebecca, to her credit, was like amazing. She saw the vision of what this could be for our family.
You were how old?
This would have been 26 at this point. So got into a way better PhD program than I deserved at UC Berkeley.
Okay.
In the business school there.
Really tough to get in, right?
It was tough. Yeah. They take like 3 or 4 people a year in that program. And I was dumb as to how, it's kind of a Forrest Gump thing. Like, I just kind of accidentally stumble into some amazing opportunities along the way. And that was, I got accepted to this program 10 years later. One of the professors in the program, he had been one of my advisors, wins the Nobel Prize in economics. He's like, these are smart people. While I was at Berkeley, 3 or 4 of those professors I had classes from won Nobel Prize in economics. Like, either when I had class with them or like the semester previous.
Just like brilliant.
Brilliant. It kicked my that was probably as hard as knocking doors in Naples.
But like, were you always like high horsepower, like intellectually? Like, was school always easy for you?
That's a great question. And I don't, I wouldn't want this to come out the right way. I think that there were some parts of school, if I liked what I was studying and I could get my intellect engaged in it, I did really well in those kinds of classes. If I didn't think that it was worthwhile or didn't respect the teacher, which I regret now as a professor, this is hard. Like, those are classes I didn't do as well in.
So Kim Clark has become like a pretty good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I did one of these with Kim, and my observation was that that was just a gift of his, is he was brilliant. Like,
one of the smartest guys ever.
He just that was a superpower. Like, when he stepped into something, he was going to excel, like in academia.
He's extraordinarily intelligent, and he's a great guy. Besides, but I mean, people still talked about him at. I got there. He left about a year after I got to Harvard. But Kim's a super smart guy, and besides, a really wonderful person.
But did you find yourself like in that category where you're like, what? And it's not like, hey, I'm comparing myself to this person or this person, but like when you're going through school, like, was that just something you tested well? Like, those. Yeah, no, so I think when I went to that bishop in Ann Arbor and said, hey, what's this business school professor thing about? Like, should I go get a PhD? He said, I'm paraphrasing, no, it's a terrible idea. I was like, why? He's like, oh, it's a nightmare. He's like, first of all, you're probably not getting into a good school. If you do, it will destroy your self-esteem,
because you think you're smart, right? It's like, yeah, I think I'm smart. It's like, you think you're smart now, it'll destroy that. And then if you make it through the coursework, the classes, you're going to like wander in the desert trying to figure out what you should write your dissertation about. And you probably will fail there. And if you fail there, you're going to get hired as a junior professor someplace. And then it's going to crush you because you have to publish or they're going to fire you. And academia, you'd think is like, these are his words, paraphrasing, is full of like enlightened, smart people. You'd think that they would all be like, they'd all get along. It's like
a lot of ego.
It's not even that. It's like that they're willing to argue over mundane, dumb little issues. And it's a really like catty group of people. Like you're going to hate it. And I, to me, this is like, the problem when you tell somebody like that they shouldn't go into a rock band because nobody makes it as a rock star. I was like,
I'm doing this.
That sounds amazing. Yes, I want to be on the practice squad or whatever.
It's so great.
So that actually on every count turned out to be
true,
directionally true. I get to Berkeley. They took 3 of us my year, and I was the dumbest one of the 3.
I can't imagine 3 people getting accepted.
Each they're a little, so it's like in marketing PhD they take like 3 or 4. In finance they'd take 3 or 4. Mine was business economics. They'd take 3 or 4, and they just took 3. And the smartest guy had graduated from Harvard in applied math. Second smartest guy had graduated from Berkeley and then had gone to get a master's degree at Princeton. And then like little old me, I was like, thought I was smart. And I was like, I'd sit in class. I still remember this guy, David Card, who ended up winning the Nobel Prize in economics. I'm sitting there in class and I'm taking notes. He's writing these equations up on the board. And my big point of confusion is like, is that a T or a plus he just wrote up on the board? And there's a dude like 3 seats down from me who already has a PhD in physics. And now he's getting a PhD in finance. And he's like Russian. And he's arguing with Professor Card. He's like, no, I think, this, and this. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, I've been playing peewee football and these guys are, I'm Tom Brady is talking to, Eli Manning here about quarterbacking. And I like, what
just like, I'm not in the same league as these
totally
guys.
Totally upside down.
Yeah.
So my answer to your question, Casey, is if I were being, grateful for talents and stuff, I found out that I'm pretty good at being creative and identifying what's an interesting issue to study.
Yeah.
And coming up with a creative way to study it.
But how did you navigate that from like, get into a school that's impossible to get into to like your dissertation? Like what was your dissertation? Like, how do you come up with this idea? Like, I've always been fascinated with that. Like, I've got to come up with something that's unique in the world. Like, I've got to come up with an idea that no one's thought up yet.
That's an amazing question.
Like, it's actually really cool.
Yeah. So this is about where I started to realize that I actually had something to offer. Because for the first 2 years of school, when you're doing coursework,
you're getting crushed.
And I was getting crushed harder than the other guys.
Yeah.
And so we're in this, and that's with all the econ PhD students. And I get to this business school seminar that's maybe it's like 10 of us doing readings of academic papers. And the professor just casually mentions this funny phenomenon that 2 or 3 academics back in the 1930s noticed. And that was that often when a technology is about to die, it experiences like a bump in productivity or like quality. And the thing that a couple of early economists, there's a guy named Douglas North, who was an economic historian back in the early part of the 20th century, he had noticed this with sailing ships. So sailing ships, going along, that's the way you move cargo around the planet.
Yeah.
You get to the advent of steam power, and you'd think then that like steamships would just kill sailing ships. It turns out that those sailing ships that were around for the last 20 or 30 years of sailing ships' lives got way better, way more efficient, hauled more stuff, used fewer sailors, went faster. And it was like, this was a puzzle because
like, where were you at the whole time? Like, why are you showing up at the tail end to be excellent? Like,
See, you should be an academic. This is exact. So this is the exact question, and this is actually why it's a puzzle, because the easy explanation is that users of the old technology are somehow frantic that they're going to lose their jobs, like so they buckle down.
Yeah.
But the problem with that explanation is that sailing ships had been a super cutthroat market, like super efficient market, letting out for bids. It's like Uberized. Like there was no slack laying around on the ground for them to exploit when the steamships showed up. So that was like a puzzle, and that like had this light went off in my head during the summer. I was like, that's an interesting thing. And since I had worked in the car industry, I was like, I wonder if there's a modern
Equivalent.
equivalent of that. And I was like, since I'm a nerd and I had done this and I had like rebuilt motorcycle motors and stuff, I was like, carburetors got replaced in the 1980s by electronic fuel injection. And I wonder if there was a last gasp in carburetors when electronic fuel injection showed up. And so I spent like a year, thousands of automobile repair manuals to identify who was the manufacturer, the Holley or Carter or Hitachi or Keihin or Bosch or whatever, who manufactured these systems, and then matched that with patent data from the U.S. Patent Trade Organization office, matched it with EPA data that told fuel economy and performance numbers, and built a data set and where I was able to identify, in fact, in the late 1980s, carburetors take off in efficiency right as they're about to get killed by fuel injection. So that I was good at that. Could I do math problems as quickly as that Russian guy that had a PhD in physics already? No. But I was actually, I had a little bit of an advantage I discovered at being
paying attention.
Paying it, yeah. Or maybe it's like lateral thinking or something else, but it was like identifying like, oh, that's the interesting thing here. That would be a cool thing to figure out.
So is that what you end up doing your...
Yeah, that was my dissertation. The last gasp of
and what did you find?
Really briefly, because I'll talk your ear off about this. 3 things happen. One is when a new technology shows up, and this generalizes to lots of technologies, new technology shows up, it pushes the old technology out of applications that the old technology isn't very good at first. So sailing ships steamships show up, and the first routes that they push steamships out of are like short haul routes, because short haul routes are bad for sailing ships because you got to hoist sails, you got to wait for the right wind, you got to navigate out of the dock, and then you'd like to spread that over like a long ocean voyage, like amortize that.
Yeah.
So the first routes are those, and so what happens is the old technology ends up looking better. It may not actually be better, but it's performing better because it's being used at what it's good at. Same thing happens you see when angioplasty shows up, and starts to replace some of the operations they've been doing, coronary artery bypass graft surgery, like open heart surgery. It pushes out some of those things. This happens a lot. So that's one of the things that happens is like carburetors get pushed out of applications that they're not suited to. That's the first thing. So we call that selection. The second thing, this is really interesting, is that the users of the old technology look at that new thing and they go, that has some cool stuff in that we could borrow. Like we could borrow some of the components from that new technology. So in steamships and sailing ships start getting equipped with like little auxiliary steam engines that help them to navigate in and out of port. Electronic fuel injection, in order to make that work, you've got to build some chips that can live in a car where it's loud and there's lots of vibration and heat and stuff. You take those things and you put them onto a carburetor and you get electronically controlled carburetors for like 5 years that are like way better. So it's like, we call this a hybridization of the new and the old technology. You can borrow that stuff. And then the final thing is actually some of this like last gasp, like frantic work, like nostalgia stuff that happens. And you do see some of that happening. Like companies that are just truly are desperate, they get some of this. So that was super fun. And then I was able to spin that into a series of research projects where we look at that and all kinds of things, from cool watches.
Yeah. How do you go apply it? How do you go?
Yeah.
Like I remember, and like the reason I'm so fascinated with this, I would consider myself the opposite end of the spectrum from academia. So like I never tested well. I actually had like a really tough time. You know what I mean? That it was just like something that like it was hard for me.
Yeah.
And as I've studied professors, I remember studying Clayton Christensen and his whole theory of disruptive innovation.
Yeah.
And I remember I just had to review it and review it
Yeah.
and review it because I'm like, I want to conceptualize this. I want to actually like
Yeah.
know this so that I can go apply kind of this theory of disruption, you know, in life and see these patterns and how to go.
Yeah.
But like to come up with that theory, I just always have so much admiration for somebody who roots out that observation because it's like hidden. It's like that insight is hidden.
It is.
You have to, but it's truth. It's like principle based that you, once you get it, you can go like weave it into all these different industries. And it's like you like learn this secret of like life that it's really cool.
It's totally true. And I'd just say two things about this, sort of maybe like a little bit inside baseball. The first thing is the better, and Clay's certainly an example of this, the better the theory, the more obvious it seems after the fact.
Yeah.
You're like looking and you're like, duh. Like I should have seen that this whole time. Like it's hard for big companies to disrupt themselves, like, because that's where, you know, the value creation mechanisms like fight that, like, duh. But, you know, nobody saw that in the way that Clay did.
Yeah.
Clay saw it. The other thing I'd say about Clay, and I'd say this, you know, rest his soul, was one of the most amazing humans I've ever known. I say this, what I'm going to say, I say respectfully. I was talking about Clay one time with a colleague at another school as a co-author. And I often would find myself in a position to say, like, you should read Clay's stuff. It's really awesome. Because Clay sometimes didn't get credit from academics for, he was a guy who went across multiple disciplines.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes academics are territorial. So the sociologist
a bit snobby, right? Isn't there like kind of a bit of like, hey.
Yeah. I think it's less like I'm smarter and it's more like this is my turf.
Is it a bias? Is it like, I've spent my whole life specializing on this one thing?
Yeah.
If someone does something different than that, it's less than, or like not as.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the way I'd translate it, honestly, Casey, is I'd probably say this is like, if I wrote a book on sales, not having sold beyond one summer in my whole life,
I'm discounting it.
You'd be like, dude, I'm like, this is like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
like,
who are you? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so some of it's like well-founded.
Human nature, yeah.
But some of it's like, some of it is, you should be open to new ideas wherever they're from.
Yeah. But
some of it is like reasonable. So I was telling this colleague, you should really read Clay's. Like, this is like, it's legitimately interesting, good stuff. And it's super awesome. And he said this really profound thing to me. He said, Dan, everybody is smart. Like, that's not the thing. He's like, Clay is smart. Like, I'm not discounting that. The thing about Clay is he recognized good stuff when he saw it, and he worked his tail off to understand it. And he worked his tail off to exploit the opportunity when he saw that this was something that could help the world.
Yeah.
Like Andy Grove, CEO of Intel, calls him up. He's like, hey, I read this article that in Harvard Business Review about your disruption idea. Can I have you come and talk?
Come
and then
show me.
And you know, I've had one or two opportunities that are a little bit like that. And I did not. So Clay saw that as like, this is an opportunity for me to change the way the world thinks about stuff. And he ran with it.
Yeah.
And he worked his behind off making that happen. Literally probably worked himself to death.
Yeah.
Doing that and other good stuff. So anyway, I actually got lost.
No, for me, I love it. Like, whether it's academia or whether it's professional sports or whether it's like Broadway or what, like anytime you see somebody that's the best in the world,
it's amazing
that they've spent the 10,000 or the 20,000 hours becoming the master of their craft. It's hard, like for me, not to just like
geek out on it, right?
Yeah, you're just like, man, I love seeing greatness. Like, and when you see it, you can absolutely see it. You know, like when you're around somebody that's the best in that thing, it's totally so rare.
This is my daughter is hopeful about Travis and Taylor, right? She's like, Taylor Swift hasn't met somebody that's her that can like that's competed at the very, very, very top level. Tip top. And what's cool about, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Travis and Taylor on a podcast about,
which I love them both.
But the cool thing about them is like you've got two people that have operated in different spheres, but at a super high level.
Yeah.
My daughter didn't even know who Travis was before they got together, and but that's a cool thing. And
that's actually like an entirely different case study that would be actually really fun to go break down.
Yeah.
Like even the commercialization of that relationship, Like Travis, his net worth and his commercialization of being able to go connect with wide audiences and like he has to have learned so much from her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
she's the greatest of all time. Like there's no
She's
one
the GOAT.
There's no one who
Yeah.
like, you take
Ohtani,
the Michael
that's it.
Jackson, you
Yeah.
take anybody that's like done it and she's stomping them and she's doing it
Yeah.
so consistent. Like this was probably 12 to 15 years ago. And me and Chels take our two girls to Seattle to go see Taylor Swift.
Like before that, that's cool.
And she sold out the whole stadium. This is 12 years ago. And then this is a couple years ago, and we take, we take Ava and her friends, and we go to just a random flight to Denver. And we go to Mile High. And this is a random stop on the tour.
Yeah.
There's 40, 50,000 people
packed,
singing every word. And
crying,
I'm like,
because she sees them and all that. Yeah.
It was insane. And she went for 3 hours, 3 hours singing number one hits. And I'm like, I'm witnessing greatness right now. Like, I'm not like a crazy Taylor Swiftie.
Yeah.
But I'm becoming one just watching like her run this crowd like it's her last concert she's ever going to give. And the next night she's going to do it again. I'm like,
same thing.
That's incredible.
So I don't know if I'll be able to make this point effectively, but I want to like circle this back to something you're kind of referring to. So, Clay was extraordinary. He was a Rhodes Scholar, 6'10", right? Like, I mean, like
he's a big guy.
Every dimension, like the guy was just over the top. And he did that in every aspect of his life. Spiritual life, as a dad, like he was just like, you feel bad about yourself comparing yourself to him. I think that there have been academics out there that were smarter than Clay.
Yeah.
And I think that there were academics out there that were, more creative than Clay. And I'm guessing that I know that there are people out there with a better voice than Taylor Swift. Like there are, right? There's a bunch of them. They've been on American Idol and they're like, at some club in Vegas now.
Yeah.
But the thing about her is I think she took whatever she was given as a set of gifts and has just like worked her tail off. And I think that gets back to your question about like you admire when you see greatness and could you have been an academic and whatever. Like in some ways that's like not the question. The question is, given what you've got,
what have you done with it?
What have you done with it?
Yeah.
And are you going to like turn the crank? And that's, I mean, she is so far out there on the little tippy tail of the bell curve. Gosh. But it's not because she had parents that were really interested in her career and she's obviously like a good songwriter and she's really thoughtful about stuff, but they're probably better songwriters and they're probably better singers.
These are some mental maps that I like completely see the world out of, like bring a lot of things back to these maps. And you just touched on a couple of them. And the first one is this parable of Jesus, this parable of the talents.
Yeah.
And I always come back to this of like, it kind of doesn't matter where you start.
Yeah.
What matters is that you turn one into two and two into four and you don't hide them.
Yep.
But you put yourself out there and you go develop them and you go put them to work. And then the second mental map, and this one's scary to me, is compounding.
Yeah.
And the power of compounding and the disproportionate power at the end of the tail versus the front. And I take that and put that back to the Clayton Christensens or the Taylor Swifts, where you look at both of them, like she was doing this when she was 14 years old.
Yeah.
And the last one that's always been so fascinating, and this is like a whole different conversation because I'm sure you've seen this in your career multiple times where you have to go reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Where you're going down one road and then whether it's going into law school and switching.
Yeah.
And then going into cars and then switching.
Yeah.
And then going to Harvard or whatever it is. But I always admire people that are so specialized and almost pigeonholed in one thing. And they have the courage to go reinvent themselves and start over. And, I think about Clay and his career and, he was going down a completely different track. He was a founder. He was an entrepreneur. He's gets fired from his company, you know, like 37, 38 years old. Like,
I'm on the board of that company now, by the way.
oh, really?
Yeah.
You're on the board of that company?
Ceramic Process Systems back in
That's amazing.
Back in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
He was the founder, and they raised a ton of money, IPO'd it, and then they had trouble. It was one of the things that I think he would have called one of his big lows that prompted him to like think carefully about disruption. They got disrupted.
What do I do with my life though? Yeah,
and then he did disruption as a thing to study, and then he moved on from that. He was doing the jobs to be done stuff and other things. He could have sat there and just collected money on it.
Of course.
But yeah, sorry.
I think it's that. I think it's like, yeah.
So I was talking about in my MBA class the other day. So I teach a first year operations class to MBA students, and we did a case on the Toyota production system. And I'll if you want to talk about that, I'd be happy to. But
to give context, like those guys are legendary.
Legendary.
Yeah.
If you're going to drive a car across the Sahara, you're going to drive a Toyota Land Cruiser like that. And the reason is the Toyota production system turns little mistakes. It recognizes that there are going to be inevitable mistakes as you're designing something or assembling something. And what it does is it creates a culture inside the company where you air out those mistakes. People pull an andon cord and say, hey, something's going on. I cross-threaded a bolt here. And then what it does is it takes those things and it turns them into positives. So you go back, the goal is to rewrite the process so that doesn't happen again. You wake up after running this a million times and you got like Toyota Land Cruisers instead of stuff that breaks down. So at the end of this case that I do with MBA students, it becomes really clear that you can apply this to life. You can turn like little setbacks and failures into positives if you're willing to let them shape you and let you grow. And my version of the Taylor Swift thing that you were talking about, Taylor, or athletes or Clay, is I actually think there's a really like humble, quiet version of what you said your third thing is, which is like if you meet somebody in your neighborhood, like we've got a lady in our neighborhood I think of right now who's been through like the craziest set of like trials you could possibly imagine in her life, and she's like 85 years old. And when you talk to her, it's almost like you're talking with God. It's like she's got this like
so much wisdom,
and it's like serene and just makes you feel good when you talk with her. And my belief is she has basically done the if I can say it this way, like the Taylor Swift or the Clay thing, but in her like inner life and in the way she like deals with challenges, so that she's basically decided to take on everything that came up and approach it in a way that brings like happiness rather than bitterness, and brings like growth rather than like failure and stagnation. And you get somebody like that. I actually think that this lady is like the Taylor Swift of like spirituality. And she's just a regular lady who drives a Subaru, like lives by my.
But you can feel it.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
So I think that we sometimes like overfit on, Michael Jordan or Barry Bonds or Shohei Ohtani.
They're so public.
They're public because you can see that. Yep. But I actually think that there's like an inner version of this. Probably, this is probably somebody like Chelsea who's willing to go back and disrupt herself multiple times. Like that's kind of what I'm talking about.
I think that's why it's so emotional for me watching her go through this process, because it's easier not to. Like life's pretty awesome.
And nurse is great. You just do it.
She just like, and you have a great life. You got amazing kids, you got amazing friends, you got hobbies, you got this stuff. And so like,
what's not to like?
To make the decision to say, I'm going to go back and be bad.
Casey, do you think that that's like innate? Like the people that strive to like, basically so I think you've interviewed two of my good buddies.
Who's that?
So Taz Murray and Brian Neville.
Oh yeah.
Co-founders of, I'll take credit. I introduced the founders of True Fruit.
Yeah.
Awesome guys. Those guys, both of them had good exits a couple of times before starting True Fruit.
Yep.
They start True Fruit. They grow it, like grind for a couple of years. I mean, I was with them like the day after the check clears, they're like, I think I could just like chill. And then like a few weeks later,
right back at
they're
it.
right back at it because
sure.
they can't like not push. So,
do you think
it's innate or do you think it's learned?
So here's what I would tell you is Tony Robbins is like, he has captured philosophy for me more than anybody living. And it sounds super cliche because it's like, Tony Robbins, but he captures, and a lot of it is these phrases, but like his definition of that is that business is a spiritual game and that like building something great is an end in and of itself. And I think when you look at it in that light, it's not to go like get more money. It's to go like create something. And I think innately in all of us, like we have this like desire to be creators. And, like if you get like ultra philosophical, it's like, well, of course, like if you're a son and daughter of God,
that's your heritage.
Then that is your birthright. Like that's what you're built to do, is to go create. And the opposite of that, he would say progress equals happiness.
Yeah.
And when you arrive, there's a feeling of satisfaction and the check hits and it feels so good to get to the end. But that satisfied needs don't motivate. And so it's like you can sit there for a bit and then it's like, okay, what's next? Where's the next mountain? What's the next challenge? Because that process of building, that's where you become. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. I mean, so I've been, because I've lived in some fun places, Bay Area, Boston, Provo. We took, I left BYU 6 years ago to go take a job in England. I went to go teach at Oxford.
How fun.
It was super fun. That was what I was referring to earlier.
You're like,
we've been really fortunate.
Your pedigree,
Forrest Gump,
is insane. Like I'm going through this saying Berkeley is kind of like, it's it. Like if you like go have that experience, that like intellectual experience, like show me a place in the history of the world where you would go study a subject with mentors and leaders and people that could teach it at a higher level. You know what I mean?
Super fun. They won 5 Nobel Prizes this year,
so
physics and econ.
You take that extreme to Harvard Business School, that like you look at what that shaped.
So it was really formative for me to be around the kinds of people that you're talking about, right? That we're talking about here. Like, people that, and actually a good number of them were not only extraordinary, like Clay, extraordinary in their professional accomplishment, but were also like really, really good people.
Yeah.
That was an amazing opportunity. Where I was kind of heading with this was that in, one of the opportunities of being able to be a go around and see these kinds of things was actually I've gotten to know some people that are kind of big people like you, and like people, and what you find is like, what I found is when you boil it all down, you can talk to somebody who flies they go on vacation on their Falcon jet or their Gulfstream or whatever. And they don't like the pressure of like where they're going to get their next meal from. Like that's been taken off the table for them. They're fine. Yeah. In the end of the day, basically people like the stuff when you really boil it down is everybody has the same trials. It's like, are my kids happy? Like, am I being a good person? Is my, am I doing the right stuff? Is my spouse like mad with me? Can I figure out a way to like make the world better around me? Yeah. And that's like, it's one of the blessings of like having been able to encounter a lot of people and a lot of talented people. It's like, in the end of the day, there's that. And then the to circle further back to your point, a lot of times when people channel that striving in the right direction, they're still trying to like, not just do better at business and their intellectual enterprises, but also with their personal life and their inner life. Everybody's got problems.
Yeah.
That's been an interesting observation.
So I want to cover some gaps. So from your PhD, where did you go from there?
So I was really fortunate. That was my rookie job coming out of out of PhD schools. I got a job teaching at Harvard Business School. I looked.
Who hired you?
The Technology and Operations Management Department. So this was the department that had. It's where you do operations. There were some really stellar people there. Clay was actually part of that department when I got there, and I had imposter syndrome for sure. Like coming into it, I was like, they're gonna put me. I looked really young. I was 30 or 28 when I got this job, and
you
I'm
were
like
young.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go walk into.
I can't even imagine.
It was crazy
rolling into Harvard Business School as 28.
And I know how dumb I am when I look in the mirror, and I'm like, okay, when am I going to get found out here? And I had this. Clay actually helped with this. I had like going into my teaching in the first fall, they're going to put you in a classroom with 90 MBA students.
Yeah.
And you teach, as you know, this kind of Socratic method where it's you are keeping this conversation. I'm not sitting up there using slides, never use one PowerPoint, basically. I'm doing, Mr. Baugh, start us off today.
The cold calling.
What happened?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like what should Doug Friesen at the Toyota at the Toyota plant do when he walks into the plant Monday morning? He's got this problem with quality.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have this debate. And I had this really strong like sense of being an imposter, especially since Berkeley had crushed my self-esteem, where I'm going to go walk into class. I got these 90 kids that all went to like Princeton and Harvard and whatever. And they're going to be, I'm going to be like a chum in the water.
Found out. Yeah,
exactly. And during that summer, I asked a lot of advice of people that did it well. And I came to this, this was actually a little bit of a spiritual conclusion as well as an intellectual one, but I came to this conclusion that on any given day, one of those or two or three or four or five of those 90 people were going to be smarter than me and know more about what I was teaching that day. I couldn't alpha everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And if that was true, then I was going to set myself up to fail if I tried to be the alpha in the room in every possible one. And those kinds of people are going to smell weakness and go after you. So I was like, so what's my role? And the role that I came to, and Clay actually helped me with this, was you've got some really great things to offer, frameworks and stuff from great research. And what your job is to be kind of a traffic cop facilitator in getting this conversation to air out the very best in all these people. So you don't have to like alpha them. You could recognize that some people are smarter than you at something. If you can get them to share that with other people and
how empowering though.
Cause,
like that's so liberating as like a young professor.
Then I could go in there like
you're almost searching those people out and saying, I'm gonna like get both of you guys talking and everybody's gonna win.
This is when this is what good leaders do, right? Like a good leader is not afraid of having people in their organization that's smarter than them. You actually want people that are smarter than you.
Yep.
And you want to develop those people and have them pass you. What you want to do is get those people together and then create like a context where they can thrive. So I get there. That was an amazing set of experiences. Taught operations, built an elective called operations strategy, kind of next level operations. How do you think about the whole enterprise? Taught in some of those executive programs you were part of.
How fun.
Super fun. I mean, it was a blast. Fun to be part of that.
I mean, those things were life-changing for me. They're still life-changing for me. Like to be able to step away from my profession to do a deep dive on a subject and learn from, some of the smartest people in the world and have a cohort of people that bring diverse views.
Yeah.
And to go deep for a week and then go right back into my profession. Like I can't tell you how many millions or tens of millions of dollars I've made from negotiation courses, from behavioral economics courses, from strategy courses of an idea or three ideas or a framework to think about a problem that I just wouldn't have had. You know what I mean? And so like those programs that you engineer and they just keep, I guarantee they're like still teaching it and you're gone. Like they live.
Yeah.
They like keep going. You know what I mean?
I mean, that you make me tear up. That is. So what you've just articulated is I think the best advertisement for for education. There are parts of the education industry that have gone wrong.
Yeah.
Like when they get too detached from stuff that's useful or helpful, when they make it about them, when they don't make it about the students, like those things, those are pathologies that are part of my industry. But when it works well, it's exactly what you described. I mean, this is, we were talking at the very beginning about our wives and their kind of educational journeys. This is like, I have this like huge soft spot in my heart for UVU, because I watch like exactly what you described is what Rebecca's going through right now with the culinary program. She is headed toward she's going to go do a stage. It's a like culinary internship at like basically the best restaurant in like the United States.
Where's she going?
It's in Berkeley, California. It's called Chez Panisse.
Okay.
And it's like the place that Farm to Table and California Cuisine like started. And she applied there from UVU, right? This is like, and she had this imposter syndrome. She's like, I'm not, and she's gone from not feeling like she knew much about stuff to being like launching this really cool career that we actually don't know which direction it's going to take, but it's amazing. And that like, so what you just described is not, it's not like just the Harvards that get to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're doing your job well, and the culinary arts program at UVU is doing this really well, like you get to see this transformation in people. And that to me is like at the core of what education leaders ought to be focusing on is can we make this about the transformation that happens in students? All the stuff that research ought to be.
I want to push on this. We're running a little short on time.
I could talk to you all. You're an amazing conversator. I'll talk to you all day.
Well, so I want to push on this because, so for me, my experience with education has been so different than like the traditional academic track.
Yep.
Like mine has been all self-taught. It's been read a book a week. It's been interview amazing people. It's do executive courses. It's kind of patching it together.
Yeah.
But I know how impactful it's been for me. And I think about AI and I think about this massive disruption that's taken place, and just it's going to completely turn education on its side. I was with Chelsea in Italy, and you know, she's taken this hard math test, like this really tough accounting test, and she was supposed to like we're going on like a family vacation. It's like a 9-day vacation.
Yeah.
And it's some pretty hardcore concepts that like she just like all of it is self-taught, you know? So like she's building off of like a zero foundation and building up from there. And
by the way, those two accounting professors she's got are like world-class.
She loves
Mike
them.
Drake, Jake Thornock. They're teaching, this is like heavy duty stuff.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so she was asking me to like help her early on.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of stuff wrong. And it's like, we don't fight that much.
Yeah.
It was like a family fight because I screwed up some tests for her. I'm like, why are you asking me? Like, I have no upside, all downside of like this. But going back to this thing, I was like, Chelsea, just cheat. Like, jump on chat and rip that sucker out. And like, let's go have our vacation.
Yeah.
But she goes and, you know, ends up getting a great grade. And I think it's something that she's super proud of. But my experience in the business world isn't that. It's just get to the answer. Like if there's an easier resource than having to like, go find the person who knows how to do it and grab them and like, let's go, you know? And so you start seeing like I get it. The traditional academic model, which is again, very important. But I'm interested to see your thoughts on like these traditional hard skills that are actually hard to get. It feels like AI is commoditizing some of the hardest skills.
Yeah, 100%.
It's fascinating to me. I'm interested to see like where this goes because like
you've hit the nail 100% on the head. And I'm going to tell you two concepts that I hope fit together really well. And then maybe give my answer on AI. Okay, first thing is, I think that we're actually super aligned on this. The first thing is, I will often talk with like a young person that started college and go to BYU, go someplace else, and they get like a year or two into their experience, and then they do a startup, and they start like checking out of their their studies.
Yeah.
And then they go like launch their thing, or they try to, or whatever. And then sometimes I see them on like the secondary market when they come back to get an MBA.
Yeah.
They're like, they're like apologizing for their grades. And like, I checked out because, you know, my undergrad degree wasn't really useful, and I didn't feel I have time for it. And I was really trying to start my business. Totally get it. Right. That's cool. I contrast that actually. And you probably like might put yourself in some bucket that I wouldn't. So the bucket I would put you, Casey, in is what you've just said to me, is that you're a lifelong learner, right? Like the fact that you're reading books all the time tells me that you're actually not exactly right about wanting to just go find the smart guy to tell you what to do. The attribute that I see in successful students and in successful business people, and actually successful people generally, is that they're not satisfied with just letting somebody else do the knowing for them. Like they want to go discover this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why you got this thing, right? Like this is partly like this is a cool thing for you to like have, and you got
I would put this in the same bucket as listen to a podcast or read a book. I get to go pick the most interesting people that I like come across in life.
Yeah.
And I get to go dive in for an hour and a half.
Exactly.
Like that to me is fascinating.
Totally. And I would love to see your like Goodreads list. Like I'd like to see what you're reading. And that tells me, so the thing that I want to tell that kid that's like, oh, I'm checking out because I'm starting this app and I just don't have time to take my marketing classes, or I don't have to take it, whatever, is like, cool. I'm fine with that. Graduate at some point, but you're missing the boat if you're not devoting a significant amount of your mind share to like creating a habit of learning.
100%.
And that to me is like actually, so those, I would put you maybe in a different bucket
but
from what you would.
I think we're talking about the same bucket. Like education for me is paramount.
Yes. And
I have found that traditional education probably isn't the most efficient route, especially like in the early undergrad.
Totally.
You're just digesting a lot of stuff that potentially isn't super relevant, where the higher you go, the more specialized and the more focused, you know, and
100%. So I think we see this the same way. What I'd say is to tie these things together, and with the AI issue, is to say, we thought for a long time, for the last 500 years. So the college I was at Oxford, Exeter College at Oxford, was founded in 13 something.
Incredible.
For a long time, what we thought academia was creating knowledge and becoming a warehouse of knowledge. And then their job was to transmit knowledge to anybody that came in the doors to be a student. What we found out is actually you can commoditize the creation and the storehousing of knowledge. You don't have to go to the Bodleian Library, this is terrible. The library at Oxford. You don't have to go to the library to go get knowledge anymore. You can literally just get in ChatGPT and say, what should I know about X, right? And it'll go dig into it'll get interviews from your podcast. It'll get books from Clay.
Yeah.
It'll put it all together and tell you what you need to know. So that's not what universities should be about anymore.
Yeah.
And also there's a lot of, if it's true that, transmission is cheap now. So like I can go get on Khan Academy and learn how to, factor, do factorials in math, or I can learn how to do, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
That can't be what universities are supposed to be about. And the thing, if you, to me, that you boil it down, what we really should be about, like what's the scarce commodity in the economy now, I think?
Yeah.
I actually think it's critical thinking and hard work. And so if you allow, this is why Chelsea's a saint, right? Basically, she would not allow you to be a bad influence on her.
No, and I was trying hard. I was like, this is our family vacation. We got 5 kids. Let's, and for her, it was so much more symbolic.
Yeah, it's symbolic, but it's also not about, it's symbolic. It's not about debits and credits. It's actually about Like, are you going to shape your brain? Are you going to put in the last reps
Yep.
on the bench? Are you going to like burn in those neural pathways? Use whatever
Yeah.
analogy you want. Are you going to do those things? And so to me, if I'm running the MBA programs at BYU, and I'm thinking about what should be in the core, what should be electives, who should be teaching in these things. What I'm thinking about is the knowledge is important, but that's what that kid that dropped out was thinking it was all about. Knowledge is important. Memorizing stuff, like whatever. You can always look up stuff now. What's really important is the way you've shaped your brain and your character and your
critical
intellect.
thinking. Yeah.
Exactly. And so if I'm, running an educational institution now, and I'm looking at what's the job to be done? The job to be done is not knowledge transmission anymore, and it's not hoarding of knowledge. Like, we should still be doing research, but it should be done in service of building our brains and building the knowledge base. What we really should be about is how are we shaping the way people think? And if we're doing stuff that's just showing,
you think the program that you have today is equipped to go do that? Like, is it changing in real time? Like, I'll give you my experience at OPM.
Yeah.
So I just did this the last 3 years.
Nice.
And I'd gone, over the last 10 years and then did a long program. And that's a 3-year program. The first time I went out, AI was talked about a little bit. The second year I go out, it was in every case.
Yep.
And you know how the cases are, like, you study them and then you go and you debate them.
Yep.
The third time I went out, every case had been loaded into chat.
Yep.
It had been completely broken down with different, all the questions. And the last piece of this was our professor gets up and he said, I do not want you using AI in this class. And there was almost a laugh.
Yeah.
And it was like, that genie is so far out of the bottle. Like, it's never, but my personal learning experience, it was so much more rich.
Yeah.
The last time, because I was starting at the end. Like, it
accelerated you.
It 100% accelerated. Yeah. And again, I don't have like strong opinions either way, but you're in this world and you actually have to go like navigate a world that's changing really fast right now. Like, I think school is getting disrupted as much as any other sector. So
this is maybe full circle here, Casey. So go back to my dissertation about carburetors and fuel injection.
Yeah.
And these earlier observations about sailing ships and steamships. So AI is the biggest steamship that's come along, or the biggest EFI system in a long time. So there's part of us that we have to adopt this new technology. There's probably some hybridizing to do. This is what you just experienced, was if you could take the best parts of AI and graft that onto a personal learning experience where you're pushing yourself, your colleagues are pushing you and you're pushing them, your professor's is there to facilitate this thing. It's transformative in a way that it's remarkable. And if you watch slides, it's not going to be that.
I'm thinking about your dissertation in this frame and what I experienced, and it was 100% that was, man, it was a better experience.
Yeah.
Like, it was a more elevated experience, and you had everybody that kind of got elevated up and started higher.
Yeah.
And then you're debating off of like a higher foundation. It was really great. Like, it was a really great experience.
So take that and so I observed in your office when I came in here, you're in a meeting, you come out, and there's a bunch of people in your meeting with you that, I read people pretty well. This is a group of hard charging ballers that you're in this meeting with. These guys are like killers.
Yeah.
Right. And if I said the way we're going to turn the next generation of those guys into those guys is by just having them watch AI generated videos about their job, no way.
Yeah, no way.
The way that those guys got to be who they are is they went through some hard knocks.
100%.
And the way you got to be who you are and the way I got, we did this, right? So what education has to do, I think, is to take the best aspects of this new technology that's here, but recognize that like in our bones, like who we are as human beings,
Yeah.
like the way we transmitted knowledge when we were in, depending on what your, belief about this, when we were in caves or, sometime between Adam and Eve and Noah, was like, we told stories to each other around the campfire
Yeah.
about, this is the stuff that your mom and I learned. I'm going to package this up into a narrative that will help you like stand on our shoulders and get better.
Yeah.
That's the way we humans absorb knowledge, is by interaction, by working through challenges, and then by seeing what the pieces are there.
Yeah.
And putting those together. That's not going to, I actually don't think that's going to change. AI can facilitate that, but if it becomes a crutch, so then it's bad. And the kid that says like, I'm dropping out because this stuff isn't useful. Like, I actually totally get that. I'd like to have that kid come back and graduate eventually.
Yeah.
But if that kid's like, everything I need to know, I can get on ChatGPT, that's why I'm going to drop out. What I'd say is, we've done a disservice to you as an institution by giving you that message. And I want you to see the bigger picture, which is nothing in AI can replace Casey's thirst or Chelsea's thirst or Rebecca's thirst to be a lifelong learner, to make sense of the world around them. AI can totally help you with this, but that can't be a replacement for your drive and your learning.
It's got to be like a hyper accelerator, though.
100%. I totally agree.
Take that on the tail end of almost everything. Like,
yeah,
it's
totally. But the challenge is to get the education environment not to have that just be a substitute for the learning.
Yeah.
It should be exactly.
So how
accelerators.
Do you do it though? I think that's my question, is like, how are you doing it right now where you can take the best pieces of it?
Yeah.
Not have it be a crutch.
Totally. I feel like, one of the other Forrest Gump like fortunate things in my life is that I stumbled into, when I was in the MBA program as a student at BYU, I had amazing professors that taught with the case method. And then when I got to HBS, I learned the trade.
Yeah.
And at its core, what the case method is you clear off all this AI stuff, and we get into a room and I say, Casey, Mr. Ba, I know this is a different time, a different place. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of this plant manager of this circuit board manufacturer back in 1985.
Yeah.
Oh, like there's nothing to do with anything you're actually doing. This guy's got all these problems, some bottlenecks moving around. We've got quality problems. There's like one bright spot in the whole plan of a guy who actually does things really well. What do you do? And you're there like in the firing line. You got a bunch of people around you who you respect, and you got a little bit of like imposter around them.
Of course.
And you got to like think through this. And then somebody that you think is smarter than you is going to disagree with you. And then you got to like, oh shoot, like I got to think through that. And you're doing that on the fly. That's actually really hard. AI is not very
can't simulate it. Yeah.
You can get that AI to help you prep that case. But when it comes down to it,
being in the arena,
learning how to synthesize on the fly,
yeah,
how to update your beliefs as you hear somebody else talk, like all of those things are things I think we should be focusing on in education. And if you see something that's people just going through PowerPoints,
yeah,
that's like, we should get rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
What we should be doing is doing stuff that gets learners to engage, to learn critical thinking, to think carefully about stuff.
I mean, your program's so exceptional, and like Chel's, she'll show, we'll sit down and we'll go through a negotiation that she's working on, or she'll go through a strategy session or these different things. And so obviously, like, and the executive is just different anyway, because you're dealing with a different customer. You're dealing with somebody that has 15 or 20 years of life experience that they're bringing to the table, where but
they're like a no fluff customer too. They're like, I don't want it. If this thing is not helping me, I don't want it.
It's got to serve them. Yep. Yeah. Like there's a real sacrifice there.
Taking off time from work and family and all this stuff. And they're sacrificing weekends. It's a big deal.
No, it's so fascinating. I literally could talk about this stuff forever, but I got to wrap, but there's two more questions I want to touch on before we finish up. We'll have to do this again, because there's a bunch of places I still want to go on.
I'd love to.
Kind of the future, because I'm fascinated about the future of education. Like you talk about loving UVU. I think they're doing a really incredible job innovating, and their customer is a different customer than a BYU.
Actually, it's worse than that. They've got like a whole range of customers because you got a whole bunch of different kinds of folks that are they're amazing. The ones I've met, lots of them. But it's like it's a pretty broad spectrum of like people like I want to get a job in the restaurant industry to I want to be a pilot to
financial planning.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of super smart, amazing folks there. And it's so it's actually, I think it's a bigger challenge actually.
It's an incredible bridge. So at another time, just the future of education.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on it. Like, what does it look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? But switching gears, like before we finish up, faith is always kind of a topic of this podcast. And how has faith factored in your journey from Colorado Springs to Utah to, the Bay, to the East Coast, to London? You know what I mean? Like, how does faith factor, like, as you're thinking about decisions and as you kind of navigate your own life?
One of the ways in which I'm really lucky, as I said, I had a really great childhood, and I'm really lucky, is I grew up in a home with parents who had a very expansive view of faith and science. So, my dad's like one of the strongest like believers I've ever met. He's just a sweetheart of a humble guy who in his core believes in God.
Yeah.
He's also was a world-class nuclear physicist. He's retired now, but he did like space defense stuff in the Star Wars program, and it's just like amazing, right? And I remember sitting on the couch, like family, like reading scriptures, and my dad would like pause and he'd be like, "How do you think God got to be like God? How do you think he got to be God?" That's a deep question, right? And he's like, I don't think the way God operates is like you just get given a bunch of like one day you get like made great.
Yeah.
It's like, I think if God truly is omniscient, like he knows everything, that means he probably had to go take physics at some point and learn it. He had, eternity to do it. It probably means that he's the best psychologist in the universe. It probably means that he's the best sociologist in the universe. He's probably the best chemist in the universe. How did he get to do this? It's probably that he had to learn all this stuff.
Yeah.
And if this stuff is truth, which there's science that gets misused and it gets politicized and stuff, but at its core, science should be about
truth,
uncovering truth.
Yeah.
If something is true, then it ought to be compatible with God.
Yeah.
So I grew up in this environment where like nobody was afraid of like a question about.
They both worked.
They both work. No, it's like, Dad, like, what do you think about evolution? Or like, what do you think about, this person that says, blah, 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 blah. He's like, cool. Like if like truth is truth.
He was just curious. It's like, I even if I don't fully understand it, I know that there's a way that it will work. I just got to go spend some time on it.
Exactly. So I think, this goes way back full circle to what I thought I was going to do when I was growing up. I think one of the privileges I feel about like what I get to do today, Casey, is if our goal in life is to grow and learn and improve, then I get to work. Like the stuff that Chelsea is learning about accounting doesn't just accrue to her in this life, running a business.
Yeah.
Like that's actually something that in the eternity she gets to take with her.
No, that's so beautiful.
And that to me, so the fit to me, like at its best, now the education has some pathologies that doesn't always do that, but at its best, what it does is it is actually kind of what God's about, is like about expanding us.
How is that why you're like so fulfilled in your, like what you do professionally? It's gotta be because you're like helping people grow. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I get goosebumps as you say that. I feel super blessed, and to be able to be like, there's almost nothing better. Like I tear up a little bit when you're talking about this experience that Chelsea's having. I get to be part of that. I don't get to go make all the money with my student that's going to graduate next year, who's going to go run a bunch of deals and build stuff. But I get to like be a little part of that journey with them.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say goes back that where faith works and is something that Clay mentioned in his book about how you'll measure your life. So Clay tells a story. I'm going to paraphrase. I'll get it a little bit wrong, but he tells a story about being CEO at that company that we talked about. I'm on the board of now. So he's CEO of that company, and they go to like a company picnic, and he's sitting there watching his employees and their families kind of playing on the grass. This is outside Boston, playing Frisbee and just talking and stuff. And he's looking at this lady who works for him, who's like head of engineering, something like that. And she's playing with her 2 kids and her husband. And he has this like epiphany, like the culture that I create in my workplace and the way I treat her and the way I support her intellectual expansion and all that stuff is going to have a direct impact on the way she treats her family and the way they like get along when she goes back home. And it's then he has this like epiphany that management is like a noble profession.
Yeah.
And that to me is, when I see students like flourishing in class, I see, Chelsea, I think like there are lots of places that I could be teaching. There are lots of things subjects I could be teaching. But one of the cool things about business and this is I'm sure this is what you've experienced is like, yeah, you get to affect people's lives through the products that you're developing and creating and selling.
Yeah.
But to me, one of the big payoff is in the lives you get to improve, because business is a multiplier. You're doing one-on-one in lots of kinds of businesses, but in a business, like you're in a meeting with like 15 people, right? And all of those people are going to walk out of that having like an imprint from Casey on them. And that's going to something that they're going to take. Yeah. And to your earlier point about like families, that's scary because it's a
good and bad.
And that to me is like, so I bring my perspective my faith perspective into work. It's like the stuff that we do in a business school is of like real consequence to society. Like if we can make these things work better, it's a really cool thing.
It's so special. No, I can't. My wife has a really good friend, and I know you guys you have like a day where it's almost like a bring a friend day.
Yeah.
Where you actually have somebody come and experience it. And this is a friend of hers that, really successful family, philanthropic, but probably in a similar spot to Chelsea, where she hasn't been in the business world. She's been around it. She's ran her family, but she's curious and wants to go get after it. And I think of the finished product with Chelsea coming out of this experience at 40 with a trajectory of, hey, what are you going to do with it? Now you have this framework to think about the world, and you actually have a foundation to think about accounting and think about, P&Ls and budgets and strategy and negotiation. What are you going to go do with it? And the confidence, like Chelsea had a core belief from a really young age that she wasn't smart. Had a teacher, a friend, or somebody that said something to her. And at some point she's carried this for 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah.
And I watched her go through this accounting final, and she got like a 95. It makes me emotional just thinking about it, because that had to have been so symbolic for her of like, you've got me that I'm like the bad devil, and I'm just saying that like, just like cut to the chase. Like no one cares.
Get
like
through.
I promise you won't use this. Like I swear on everything, you will hire somebody that's doing this work, and you're not going to be doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And what you need to know is how to get to that number. Yeah. You don't actually like, but for her, it was more like, hey, this is something that I've carried with me for a long time, and I'm going to slay this dragon, and I'm going to stay at this until I go get it. And to see I noticed like this unlocking and like to be able to like let that belief go of like, no, I can hang. And you think about just how profound that's been, whether you were at Harvard or these different stages of life where you're like, no, I can do this. Like, I'm not overmatched. And there are people that are smarter than me in every room, but I'm smarter than some people too. And I'm going to bring my gifts, and it's pretty special.
I just want to, I agree. And I want to be like, first of all, this is amazing. I wish everybody were supportive and saw this kind of the way you do, because we see students that don't always have this kind of support. I would argue that every student who's going into our MBA program, our EMBA program, our programs that be with UV, wherever it is, they're going to come out of there with a couple of things. They're certainly going to come out of there with some knowledge about debits and credits and all that kind of stuff, right? They're like that's foundational. You need to know that stuff, right? Chelsea's going to come out of there with not just that, but a way of like approaching problems, right? So it's more than just knowing debits and credits, but it's like, given a complicated situation, how do I boil down what's going on here into the key things that I need to operate on and like work on, right? So she's going to get that. And I think that that's a higher level of learning than the first. But the thing that I think everybody goes into, especially into higher education, that they deserve and that they should expect, is actually the most critical thing that I think she's gotten out of this, which is a transformation in the way she sees her role in the world and in the universe.
Yeah.
Like, because I could, when I interviewed her, I could have told you this is a leader, this is a baller who actually doesn't realize that that's what she is yet. She has some idea that this, right? She's been successful in lots of ways, but she thinks that she's an imposter. She doesn't realize that she's actually one of the like supermen. She thinks that she's, one of the muggles. She's actually a wizard. She just hasn't realized it yet. And one of the beautiful things, I think the most beautiful thing about higher education and what we should be aspiring to, is you unlock confidence and you reframe for people where their place in the world. They thought that the world was
their potential.
That's right. But they thought that the world was run by Sheryl Sandberg and Elon Musk and, Tim Cook and Mary Barra and all, what are these CEOs? And that those are people from a different like super race. And you get to the end of this and you realize, oh, like if I am willing to miss a little bit of family vacation, buckle down and do this, like I can understand the stuff they do and I can do that stuff. Like I'm one of them. And that means that I can go and have a really big positive impact. That to me is the big outcome that we should be striving for.
I want to, just close out with just kind of honoring you guys. Like that, is so intimately important for me and my family. And you go on this journey together of being married and having kids. And, again, we like made deliberate choices early in our marriage. And one of those choices is we wanted to have a family. And I think in 2025, like that's not like a given. I think there's been different points in time where traditional roles are just kind of, expected. But I think it was a choice. And Chelsea kind of has been the CEO of our family, for sure. COO. I mean, she runs our family like a boss. Like she is an operator. But to like go into this formal process, and she applied at multiple places. And she didn't get accepted to one of the MBA programs. And the feedback was she didn't have relevant experience. And the feedback that she got from BYU was that you have the most relevant experience. And I'm watching her come out of the other end of this program with these superpowers of like leading our family, but then also these formal hard skills and these frameworks that it's going to be so fun for me just to like cheer for her and be, with her and go see what she does. But I just have to like honor you and your, the people who go do it with you, because I know she's one of 70 in this cohort. And there's just, you're doing so much good in the world, and specifically with my family, like it means the world to us. And we've noticed it. And
Thank you.
Anyway, grateful for you and pouring your heart into it every other weekend. There's other places you could be.
Yeah. Thank you, Casey.
So,
honestly, it's a huge privilege. It's a huge privilege to be part of that process. And thank you for that.
Thanks for coming, brother. That was so good.
Thank you. It's fun to talk.
This podcast is brought to you by Sandlot Partners.